A tree under attack is not always silent. When insects chew its leaves, some plants release chemicals into the air, and that release is not an accident. It is closer to a signal flare going up over a battlefield. Except the battlefield is a single branch and the flare is invisible to us. Nearby plants can detect those signals and begin preparing defenses before the same insects ever reach them. Think about what that actually requires. A plant has no eyes, no nose, no nervous system in the way an animal does, and yet it can read a change in the air and respond to it. That is not thinking. It is chemistry meeting chemistry, but the result looks a lot like foresight, the kind we usually reserve for animals with brains. Once a neighboring plant picks up the warning, it can change the chemistry of its own leaves, making them less tasty or harder to digest. Picture an insect arriving at a leaf expecting a soft, sugary meal, and instead finding something bitter, tough, and unpleasant to break down. The insect did nothing to deserve that. It simply arrived after the alarm had already gone out. The plant prepared itself using information it received secondhand, the way a store might lock its doors after hearing a robbery happened 2 blocks away. Some plants take this even further. They release scents that attract predators of the insects eating them. Imagine a plant calling security by perfume. A caterpillar is chewing away at a leaf, and the leaf, in effect, sends out a very specific smell that certain wasps recognize as dinner bell for host caterpillars. Those wasps arrive, and the caterpillar's problem stops being the plant and starts being the wasp. The plant cannot bite, sting, or run, so instead it recruits something that can. That is not a metaphor stretched too far. It is closer to a literal description of what is happening in the air above a damaged leaf. None of this means trees talk like humans. There are no words, no plans, no gossip passed from trunk to trunk, but there is communication in the biological sense. One organism releases information, and another responds. That is the whole definition, stripped of anything poetic. A signal goes out, a receiver picks it up, and behavior changes as a result. Humans do this too, just with sound waves and facial expressions instead of airborne compounds. Plants also interact underground through roots, fungi, and soil chemistry, and this second network is arguably even stranger than the one in the air. Roots do not just anchor a plant and drink water. They meet threads of fungus in the soil, and through that fungal web, resources and chemical signals can move between separate plants that never touch above ground. Scientists sometimes call this network the Wood Wide Web, and the name is only half a joke because it really does connect separate individuals the way cables connect separate computers. Forests are full of signals moving at different speeds. The air carries warnings fast, in minutes. The soil carries exchanges slowly, over days, through a mesh that has existed under forest floors for longer than most trees have been standing. Light, shade, moisture, and damage all become data. A patch of shade tells a young plant to grow taller and thinner, reaching for open sky. A dry patch of soil tells roots to dig deeper. A torn leaf tells the rest of the plant, and sometimes the plants next door, that something with a mouth has arrived. This changes how a forest feels once you know it. It is not just a collection of trunks standing near each other, spaced out and indifferent. It is a living system of competition and cooperation, running constantly, with no observer required to keep it going. A damaged leaf can become a message. A scent can become a warning. A neighboring plant can react before the threat arrives, defending itself against an attack that has not happened yet, based purely on what happened to someone else nearby. Plants move too slowly for us to notice in real time, so we imagine them as passive, as scenery, as the backdrop to the animals that actually do things. But slow is not the same as simple. A forest may look quiet, yet it is full of alarms we cannot smell, conversations we cannot hear, and decisions being made every hour in a language built entirely out of air, soil, and time. Follow for more random things you may not know.